What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Weekly GCap, the only source you'll ever need to catch up on all the gaming news from the last week. And as always, if there's only a few stories that you're interested in, feel free to use the chapters down in the description or just there on the time bar. If you scroll through the video, they should show up there. Just skip to whatever you're actually interested in hearing. First things first, as always, let's go ahead and go over all the major game releases from the last week. So on November 21st, we had Locomotive and On Your Tail. Then on November 20th, we had S.t.a.l.k.e.r 2, Heart of Chernobyl, a long-awaited title. And then November 19th, we had Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and Who Spell Carnival. Next up, Beholder is free on Epic Games. This will be free until November 28th at 11 a.m. EST, so you might as well go redeem it because there's no better price than free. Next up, I got the second wave of November Xbox Game Pass games for you guys. So first up, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. It is available now and was a day one release into the service. S.t.a.l.k.e.r 2, Heart of Chernobyl, again available now and was a day one release into the service. Little Kitty Big City, Plate Up, all of those being available now, and then 9 Souls, which will be coming November 26th, Aliens Dark Descent coming November 27th, and if you play Genshin Impact, then Game Pass Ultimate members actually get some benefits in that game, so go redeem your goodies. Next up, this is a new segment that I wanted to start on the show, where we just cover some of the games that will be leaving various subscription services, whether that be Game Pass, PS Plus, etc. So, I have the games that will be leaving PS Plus in December 2024 for you guys, those being Metal Hellsinger, Solstice, Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York, Mega Man 11, Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2, Judgment and Judgment Remastered, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins, Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide Definitive Edition, Moonscars, Grime Definitive Edition, Tinykin, Proteus, Gigabash, and Evil Genius 2. Unfortunately, there is a lot of great titles in here, so if you want to play through them all, you better get gaming. These games appear to be set to leave the service on December 17th. Next up, the Avowed release date was announced. That's coming from Avowed on X. Quote, Avowed launches on February 18th, 2025. Pre-order today for Xbox Series X and S, Xbox App, Battle.net, and Steam, or play it on day one with Game Pass. Buy the Premium Edition and get up to 5 days early access, 2 premium skin packs, and access to Avowed digital art book and original soundtrack. End quote. So, half of that was more of an advertisement for the different ways and goodies, you can play Avowed and different ways you pre-order and such, but there you have it. February 18th, 2025, we'll finally get our hands on this game. It's looking great and I can't wait to play it. Next up, Final Fantasy XIV Mobile was announced. This coming from Gamatsu. Quote, Tencent game subsidiary Lightspeed Studios in cooperation with Square Enix has announced Final Fantasy XIV Mobile for iOS and Android. It will be supervised by Final Fantasy XIV producer and director Naoki Yoshida. Multiple playtests are coming soon to China, followed by a global launch soon after. Quote, it has been 11 years since Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn launched, and this new mobile game will be a sister to Final Fantasy XIV, aiming to recreate the grandeur of the original story and combat mechanics on mobile devices, said Final Fantasy XIV producer and director Naoki Yoshida in a statement. Non-combat features such as Disciples of the Land in Hand will also be faithfully implemented, and we look forward to growing alongside the passionate Final Fantasy XIV community. This is huge. Final Fantasy XIV is not only one of the biggest MMOs of all time, but also just one of the biggest games of all time. It is still going strong to this day with an expansion that just released a bit ago. So, this is really exciting, and I can't wait to get my hands on this game because obviously I've played FF14 before, but it's going to be interesting to see how they adapt that to mobile phones, but we'll find out soon enough, and as soon as we know more, such as official release dates, pricings, and all that, obviously I'll let you guys know. Next up, Half-Life 2, similar to Half-Life 1 a little bit ago, received a 20th anniversary update with a whole bunch of goodies and stuff to go over, so let's just get started. This coming from Half-Life.com. Quote, November 16th, 2004. Our Half-Life 1 25th anniversary documentary went so well that we invited Secret Tape back to make another one, this time focusing on Half-Life 2, and it's about a lot more than just the making of a game, running out of money, getting hacked, and an early version being leaked online, being sued by our publisher, trying to build Steam, it's all in there. The 20th anniversary update for Half-Life 2 includes Episode 1 and 2 expansions in the box. Half-Life 2 now includes the complete Episode 1 and 2 expansions along with the base game. They're accessible from the main menu, and you will automatically advance to the next expansion after completing each one. It also features brand new commentary tracks for the whole game, Steam Workshop support, Steam Game Recording support, a updated game content such as fixing various gameplay and graphical glitches, various tunings to graphical features such as lighting to account for HDR, added higher resolution light maps, updated graphics settings, and much more. There's also gamepad input and Steam Deck support. They've also received updates similar to the Half-Life 1 anniversary update. They also released old footage of Half-Life 2, some of which being from E3 2002 and 3, for example. They also note that a new edition of Raising the Bar is coming back into print in 2025, expanded to include the Half-Life 2 episodes, and there's also a huge list of bug fixes at the bottom, so yeah, it's safe to say they went all out. Happy 20th birthday to Half-Life 2, one of the best video games of all time. Next up, Assassin's Creed Syndicate received a 60 FPS update, and it's available now, and it's free. This coming from news.ubisoft.com, quote, Assassin's Creed Syndicate can now run at a smooth 60 FPS on PS5 and Xbox Series, thanks to a free patch out now for the console versions. Additionally, players on Xbox Series, PS5, and PS5 Pro can experience the spectacle of Victorian London in full 4K resolution at 60 FPS, breathing new life into the game's cobblestone streets and massive industrial age structures. And from now until December 3rd, you can grab any edition of AC Syndicate for up to 75% off as part of Ubisoft's Black Friday sale. End quote. So, figured I'd include that tidbit at the end just in case you do be happening to watch this within the first 2 weeks of this video going out. AC Syndicate is one of the most underrated Assassin's Creed games in my opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed and loved the game and love returning to it from time to time just because it is such a unique setting, not just for Assassin's Creed, but a video game in general. So, especially at the 75% off price and with this new update, the game gets a high recommendation from me. Next up, there's something interesting that I wanted to go ahead and talk about. So, DLCs are now eligible to win Game of the Year. Yeah, I'm not too sure how I feel about this one, but anyway, this coming from the FAQs on the GameAwards.com, quote, so the question is, are DLCs, expansion packs, and remakes/remasters eligible? To which they answer, the Game Awards aims to recognize the best creative and technical work each year, irrespective of the format of that content's release. Expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are eligible in all categories. If the jury deems the new creative and technical work to be worthy of a nomination, factors such as the newness of the content and its price/value should be taken into consideration. End quote. So I disagree with this, okay? If it's an expansion for a game, it's not a whole new game. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, as we're going to be going over later in the show, is one of the nominees for Game of the Year, and I disagree with that because, yes, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is a great expansion, but that's just that. It's an expansion reusing, flipping assets and animations, and while there's a lot of new stuff in the game, it's not an entirely new game. It had that whole ground fundamental to build off of, and don't get me wrong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, again, a great expansion, and a lot of new content there. I'm not saying that it was like entirely recycled or something like that, like no, there was a lot of new content there, enough to maybe even be considered an entirely new game, yes, but there was already the groundwork laid out for it between the world, the lore, the story, again, the base animations, and just engine work to go off of when you're creating a new game, I mean, that's just that. You're creating a whole new game. Sometimes, if you're building your own engine, there's a whole thing that goes into that. Even if you use an engine that, already exists, like Unity or an Unreal Engine, you still have to go in, create all these new assets and animations and do all these crazy things. And while, again, yes, you do have to do that with an expansion, you have to create these new things, it's not like starting from scratch where there's even more work. In some cases, some expansions could take more work than a whole new game. But in most cases, there's going to be a lot more legwork involved with, creating a whole new game. So I feel like it's kind of disrespectful to the developers of those new games to, potentially lose to something that didn't take as much work and isn't even, it's just not the same thing. It's kind of like giving Movie of the Year award to a specific episode of Family Guy when it could have went to, the Titanic or something. I know that's a really weird example, but, it's a very similar example here. I don't know, we'll see how this pans out, but I just really disagree with this. I feel like Game of the Year should go to Game of the Year. Like remakes and remasters and such, I think that those should be eligible. That's fine, because in that stance, at least it's it's still a new game. Like, for example, Resident Evil 4 was in the running last year, and that was like a full-blown, not just remake, that was a reimagining. That was an entirely new game. Yes, there was the base story to work off of, but otherwise, it was an entirely new game, entirely new animations, new characters, new everything. I mean, the game came out like 20 years after the original, so of course, it was entirely new. But, again, an expansion, gotta disagree there, Chief. Next up, Xbox Cloud streaming for purchase games is available now. This coming from news.xbox.com. Quote, starting today, I'm excited to announce that we're allowing Game Pass Ultimate members to stream select games they own through TVs and browser on supported devices like smartphones, PCs, and tablets in all 28 countries where Xbox Cloud Gaming is available. This is just the beginning. Next year, we're excited to bring this feature to Xbox consoles and the Xbox app on Windows. We're happy to announce that over 50 great games are now available for streaming. Our library of cloud playable titles will continue to grow as we work with our partners around the world to bring you a diverse and expansive selection of great games across devices. Here are the games available today. Now, you guys know I'm no slouch. I would never just, go halfway with you guys and it did not go completely overboard just to make sure that I've not correctly, but just thoroughly delivered the news to you guys, right? So we're gonna go ahead and read off all 50 titles. You ready? Let's do this. Animal Well, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Balatro, Baldur's Gate 3, Banishers Ghosts of New Eden, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, that being the one from 2022, not 2009, The Casting of Frank Stone, Cyberpunk 2077, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, Dredge, Dying Light 2 Stay Human, Farming Simulator 25, Fear the Spotlight, Final Fantasy XIV Online, Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy V, Final Fantasy VI, Hades, Harry Potter Quidditch Champions, High on Life, Hitman World of Assassination, Hogwarts Legacy, House Flipper 2, Kingdom Bridge of Spirits, Lego Harry Potter Collection, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Metro Exodus, Mortal Kombat 1, NBA 2K25, PGA Tour 2K23, Phasmophobia, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, Ross Console Edition, 7 Days to Die, Star Wars Outlaws, Trey, The Crew Motorfest, The Outlast Trials, The Plucky Squire, The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, Tom Clancy's The Division 2, Tom Spin 2K25, Undertale, Visions of Mana, Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2, and finally WWE 2K24. Did you catch all that? Did you even retain any of all that? I don't know if I did, but there you go. There's all 50 games that are available through Xbox Cloud Streaming in terms of like the games that you purchase available now. Because obviously you can like basically stream most games on Game Pass, but again, this just applies to games that you can actually outright purchase that aren't available on Game Pass. So pretty cool. Next up, the Splinter Cell movie has been canceled. Man, this one is sad. This is coming from GamesIndustry.biz. Quote, Ubisoft's Splinter Cell movie adaptation has been canceled, according to one of the film producers. Producer Basil Iwanik confirmed the adaptation was no longer in production. Iwanik signed on to the film in 2013. The movie would have been awesome, just couldn't get it right script-wise or budget-wise, he said. But it was going to be great. We had a million different versions of it, but it was going to be hardcore and awesome. That's one of the ones that got away, which is really sad. Ubisoft's Splinter Cell film has been in production limbo since it was announced in 2012. Variety Lear reported that Tom Hardy was to be cast as Sam Fisher. In 2014, Doug Liman of Edge of Tomorrow fame was attached to direct, but since then there's been no word on its production status, end quote. So obviously the last update on this was like 10 years ago, so the fact that it's officially being, confirmed as canceled, I feel like for most people wouldn't be a surprise. Honestly, I was hoping that somehow this movie was still in production, even though it's been so long, I was just hoping that eventually we could actually see it come out, but unfortunately, here we are. It has been confirmed. The movie has been officially canceled and put back on the shelf. Thankfully, we do still have the anime series to look forward to coming out here sometime soon, but man, this would have been awesome to see, and it's a shame that it didn't work out. This may be just a theory, but sounds like there was some chaos behind the scenes. Alright, I'll stop with the terrible puns. Let's move on to the next story. Next up, apparently Sony is trying to acquire Kadokawa, which is the parent company of From Software, aka developers of Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Dark Souls. Yeah. This coming from The Verge, quote, reports that Sony was in talks to acquire Kadokawa, the Japanese media conglomerate that owns Elden Ring developer From Software, have been confirmed. Kadokawa has released a short statement acknowledging Sony's intention, but stating that no decision has been made. Quote, there were some articles on the acquisition of Kadokawa Corporation, hereinafter the company, by Sony Group Incorporated. However, this information is not announced by the company. The company has received an initial letter of intent to acquire the company's shares, but no decision has been made at this time. If there are any facts that should be announced in the future, we will make an announcement in a timely and appropriate manner, end quote. In addition to owning a majority stake in From Software, Kadokawa also owns Danganronpa developer Spike Chunsoft and Octopath Traveler studio Acquire. That's kind of a funny, Acquire, we're talking about acquisition, okay, I'm sorry. Beyond video games, Kadokawa's holdings also include a number of anime, manga, TV, and film production companies. Sony already owns a 2% stake in Kadokawa, as well as 14% stake in From Software, end quote. So, I could see Sony profiting, or benefiting from the, well, both, right? Profiting, benefiting goes hand in hand, but in multiple ways, right? Because not only is there Kadokawa, From Software and all that under them, which obviously, From Software and Sony have always had a good relationship going back to Demon's Souls and Bloodborne and such, which are still exclusive to this day over on PlayStation. But then, you also have other developers under them, like, the Danganronpa games, which did really well on the PS Vita back in the day and still sell well on the PlayStation Network store, and then Octopath Traveler, which, RPGs and PlayStation and RPGs go hand in hand, and then, you know, you also got the other part of it, you know, with Kadokawa having holdings in a number of anime, manga, TV, and film production companies, and one of the other big branches in Sony is obviously TV, anime, manga, movies, all of that. You know, Sony's a lot of things. It's video games, it's music, it's movies. I know it's easy, you know, inside of the gaming realm to just look at Sony and think video games, but Sony is so much more than that. They have a lot going on, not only even in the entertainment field, but also just in general, you know, like making TVs and other hardware and such. So, you know, I mean, that's all that we have on this at this time. There's no other news on this. You know, even at the time of recording this, I checked just before recording just to make sure. And yeah, no further updates as to if there's actually, you know, any movement behind the scenes with this acquisition. So if we hear anything else about this, and if it ends up being confirmed that they are to be acquired by Sony, which would actually be kind of huge considering, again, they're like the parent company from software. So it would be huge for Sony in multiple areas, of course, with like, again, like the movies and TVs and all that, but also in gaming. But yeah, especially in gaming there with like Elden Ring and such. Who knows, maybe if this acquisition goes through, we could finally see a Bloodborne remastered or a Bloodborne 2, but hey, we won't get into that speculative territory. But again, we'll keep our eye on this, and, you know, if we get any updates, obviously, I'll let you guys know. And finally, the Game of the Year nominees for the Game Awards have been announced. It is 5 games and 1 expansion. The expansion is being considered a full game, which I don't agree with. Game of the Year should go to an entirely new game, but, you know, if there's any expansion to be nominated for Game of the Year, I would say that this one's fair enough to where I could let it slide. So, let's go ahead and go over this. The 6 nominees are Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantasio. Do you guys like how I said Fantasio? I don't know why I put an accent on it. I just felt like it. But anyway, solid lineup of games. If I'm going to be honest, if there's any that I just kind of wanted to vote for, I mean, like, you know, these are all fantastic games, but if I just had to pick one that I'm just kind of pointing at, I'm like, I want that to win, it's gotta be Astrobot. That's where my vote's going. Again, I'm not too sure how I feel about an expansion being a part of that lineup. Just, but, you know, it is what it is. Shadow of the Erdtree, it is a very good expansion. Don't get me wrong. That game could have been called Elden Ring 2, and I would have believed it. It was massive. There's a lot going on there. It was a great expansion, but again, it's an expansion, so we'll see how this goes. We'll see who wins, but very excited to see how things shake out at the Game Awards. And honestly, it's crazy to say this, but in just a couple of weeks. But anyways, that is all the stories that I have for you guys this week. So now I guess it's time for me to get out of here. As always, you know, if you want to catch these episodes as soon as they go live every single Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. I'd love to have you here. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.